Welcome back to Next Level Rides. In today's episode, we're working on a buddy's N54 E90 335. Now, like every N54 out there, misfires, of course, that's what happens. But stay tuned, I'll show you how to take care of them. So those of you that might not know, that's your cabin air filter. So let's chuck these to the side in the nicest way possible. Cowl comes out. Yeah, that rubber thing never wants to stay in place. So now that we have the cowl out of the way, we have straight access to the top of the coil packs, including the spark plugs. So the last one's a little bit tricky to get to. So I'll show you how I do that. Actually, I think I have a special socket to help with these. I'll go find it. I do have it. So it's on a long, thin extension, and it has a big hex right on the end. So it's a thin 12-point 14 mil socket, I think. Anyways, so this will work pretty good. I haven't used it, but I will. Now, whenever I change these, I like to mark which cylinder they came from. So he has a misfire, but because he doesn't have the wireless adapter for the JB4, we can't tell which cylinder it comes through. So if by chance we're able to pull a shadow code, we'll at least have them marked and we know that's the one to get rid of. And then now it's just a matter of flipping the tab up, pulling the connector out. That's it. Now these are probably going to be pretty stuck. So what I do to help me is I'll grab an extension, I put it through the handle, and then I can pull up. Well, if that connector didn't want to pop out. This one has seen better days. Looks like somebody's already done it. Okay, there we go. All right, cylinder 1, 2. Yeah, somebody's definitely been in here. You can tell that they're warped and they're old Bosch. 3. Now, when you're pulling it, these are skipping, but if you turn it, it should push that connector out for you. If it doesn't, just pinch where it's supposed to sit on either side, and it'll come out nice. So again, turn it. You can see how this one skipped. So what I'll do is I'll give it a little persuasion. All right. And I realized I was marking the wrong one. Okay, well, whatever. He's getting rid of all 6 of these, so it doesn't matter. And 6. Okay. Now I'm gonna put these to the side. Don't need those. All right, so I'm gonna let that cool a little bit more. I'm gonna take you over to the bench and show you what we got. All right, this is what we're working with. Now, there's some good old burek here. I don't know if I said that right. Anyways, if you don't got some Turkish homies, get some Turkish homies. You'll be fed well. I need a minute. All right, so 6 spark plugs. He ended up getting the stock heat range, which is fine for up to a stage 2, so I'm not worried about that. And for coils, so he got some Bosch coils here. I thought he was getting the Dinan ones, but I guess the Bosch will do. I don't recommend going OEM. If you're gonna upgrade them or change them once, get the Dinan unit, CTS or whatever they're called now. We'll use these Bosch ones, so I'll put these to the side and I'll mark the ones that came out so we know which ones not to use. 6 new coils and 6 new plugs. So you'll notice that these have 3 prongs on them. So I had forgotten initially that you were not able to gap these down. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna chuck these in with a little bit of dielectric grease and they should be fine. If you go with a stage 1 or a stage 2 plug, it will have 1 electrode on it that you can gap down. Now, I don't think these are really bad plugs, and I think people will change them out to like a 1-step colder or eventually a 2-step colder a little sooner than they need to. But for a stage 2, it'll be perfectly fine. All right, so we'll take the other ones out and we'll chuck these in. All right, now it's very important to let the car sit for a while. If the car's still hot and you go to do this, you can strip threads or pull threads. So there's the first one. It stinks, but it actually doesn't look too bad. Now, good practice would be do it cylinder by cylinder. But, oh, that one was loose actually. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do them all at the same time because I don't need to wait to gap anything. I'm just gonna toss the new ones in. So I can see his injectors here. They're actually a mismatch of like 2, 6, 5, 7, 4. Yeah. Usually when one goes bad, they replace one. So nowadays, one goes bad, spend big money, get all 6 to index 12s. That one's got oil on it. That's not a good start. Right, because his valve cover is leaking. So there's probably a little crack where it's pulling just inside where the spark plug is. Now, 5's a bit tricky. You usually gotta do one of these. I don't know if it's gonna be long enough. Nope. So put an extension on it. I don't like how some of these feel coming out. I don't know if it's just the grit or a little bit of rust or what. When I was working on Aussie's N55, they had put the plugs in with a bunch of grit, so it was actually starting to cross thread on the way out. Now that would pull threads and have a big issue. So in the event that that does happen, what I do is I soak it with a little bit of WD-40, turn it out until it gets tight, turn it back in, a little bit more, out, and then you go 3, 4, 5 times until it actually starts to come out really nice. Looks okay. A little bit of oil. 6. All right. We'll chuck these on the bench and get the new ones. All right. So the way I do it, grab the metal here, pull the cardboard box and everything out, holding it by the metal, not by the threads. You don't want to contaminate it. What I do is I put a big lump of dielectric right on the top, and then you put it right into the socket, and the socket should have a magnet on them. Yep. So now slide it in and finger tight that first. Okay, that's almost bottomed out. Second plug, dielectric. Now go easy and go really slow. If you end up touching the bottom and it's one with an actual prong, take it out, double check the gap. I've had it where you accidentally tap it and it could close the gap just a hair. You don't really want that. Okay, it's almost there. It's tempting to use the Milwaukee, but never use any sort of power wrench tool or anything on these. Do it by hand, take your time. You're not in a rush. And if you're in a rush, maybe buy a Chevy or a Ford. Now, it's not completely uncommon to get a bad plug brand new out of the box. So if you have a misfire or a continued misfire, it's possible that one of the plugs that you actually just installed could have an issue. All right, so now that all 6 are in, now there is a torque spec for the spark plugs. I've tightened so many spark plugs in my time that it's not really worth getting a torque wrench. So generally they need to be tightened between, I think, 22 and 25 something foot-pounds. Once you've done hundreds of them, you just get the feeling. One thing to keep in mind is the more extensions you have, it will feel a bit different. So just use common sense. If it feels too tight, it's probably too tight. And then we'll go over them once before coils. If you over tighten them, you can snap a plug in half. So try to avoid that. All right, today they're going to be torqued to good and tight. I learned that from a wise European guy. All right, next are the coils. All right, so first coil, it's a little bit dry there. So what I usually do is I'll put some dielectric on here. Now the reason you do this is so that when it goes over the plug, it'll coat the porcelain and keep it from misfiring, hopefully. It's actually worked for me a couple of times. One reason being is it'll actually keep the spark from arcing across the porcelain, which can cause a crack. Or if by chance it starts to heat, you don't want it to cause a crack. So I guess you could consider it like keeping it from cracking. We'll go with that. Check this one on the first one. So you'll see a little locator tab here where the disc goes in. Firm push, you'll feel it bottom out. Now connector, because I put dielectric on everything. And you can see as you push it in, it'll start to close. So just close it, you'll feel it click. That's it, one done. So the reason I use this is it allows it to conduct better. Seems counterproductive when you put it on the side of the porcelain of a spark plug, but the reason I do this is it's easier to pull the coils and it's easier to pull the plugs, and it's highly recommended, especially if you upgrade to a higher discharge system or a PR unit. Go over each one, make sure it's nice and secure. Push, push, push. Okay, so I'm going to tidy up and we're going to give it a start to make sure everything's okay. So that's all for today. I'm going to put it back together. It sounds good. It seems to run good. I don't need to bore you with how to put the cowl back together. Now, it's the exact same process as it would be to take it off. So it's maybe 4 or 6 bolts, screws, whatever, and that's it. So that's all for today. Feel free to like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.